the Big Red Zone preview for this weekend, January 26th and 27th. This is the Big Red welcome in Penn and Oregon State. Alongside Chris Harrington and Cornell assistant coach Jeremy Spates, I'm Matt Schultz from 1160 ESPN. You can hear both duels, as always, on 1160 ESPN and 1160ESPN.com. Chris and myself calling all the action. Guys, let's break these down first with the Penn duel on Saturday, 2 o'clock at the Friedman Center. 125 is going to be a good matchup right off the bat. Number 6, Nashawn Garrett. Number 17, Mark Rappo of Penn. Rappo, a senior, is 14-3 this year. Chris, you expect that one to be really close throughout, or do you think Nashawn has a bit of an edge?
I think Nashawn has an edge. It should be an exciting matchup. Expect Nashawn to pull away in the third period, possibly really pull away in the top position to score some back points.
And against Oregon State on Sunday, Nashawn's going to have either Pat Rollins or Joey Palmer. Rollins a sophomore, Palmer a freshman. Neither one having a particularly good year. Looking for bonus points there, Coach Spates?
Yeah, I think Nashawn right now leads the nation in Tech Fall, so I think every time he steps out on the mat, unless it's a top 5 opponent, we're looking for bonus points. So
Nashawn Garrett currently first in Tech Falls, tied with David Taylor of Penn State. At 133, Bricker Dixon or Nick Arruja might be making his way back in the lineup, and against Penn, one of them will take on Jeffrey Boston of the Quakers, or Jeff Canfor. Not 100% sure who's going to go for them. Both guys middle-of-the-road records. Boston a junior, Canfor a sophomore. And for Oregon State, it's going to be Drew Van Anroy, 31st ranked in the recent NCAA polls. He's a redshirt freshman from Oregon, 13-9 so far this year. Do you think, first of all, Coach, that Arruja is going to be back, or is it more likely to be Bricker Dixon?
I think it's going to be more of a game-time decision. Bricker's been doing well. He did have a loss against Harvard, but he's been wrestling pretty well, so I think he'll probably get the nod going in there, but we'll see.
All right, well, against either of those opponents, Bricker Dixon, a toss-up, I would imagine, with both?
Yeah, I'd say, both matches, I think he'd be favored in both matches. Obviously, Van Anroy's seated ahead of him. But I think, Bricker's been coming along as the season goes along. He's starting to build into a 33 now, and we're looking for him to step up. So.
And Dixon now 9-7 at 133 so far on the year, and the poll's still confused. They're not sure whether it's going to be Arruja or Dixon coming down the stretch, so a lot of the polls still have Arruja in there. I think Bricker Dixon probably could be on that list if the national polls were taking into consideration. 141. It's going to be a couple of tough matches. My goodness. Mike Nevinger, number 6 in the country for Cornell. He's 27-6 so far this year. He's taking on number 11, C.J. Cobb of Penn, and number 4, Mike Mangrum of Oregon State. And of course, Chris, remember Nevinger losing to Mangrum in NCAAs last year. Do you think he can get his revenge this weekend?
Well, I think Mike Nevinger's ahead of schedule. He's a late bloomer in seasons, and he's really in great shape right now. And he's starting to build into that postseason form that we've seen in the past. Mangrom's, it's a tough sled, so we'll see how it goes there. Expect that to be a pretty exciting matchup, though.
And against Cobb?
Cobb, I think he should handle him.
Nevinger looking for points, possibly bonus points against C.J. Cobb, although another tough opponent for Mike Nevinger. Didn't wrestle particularly well last weekend at Brown. He was out of the match against Harvard. Joe Stanzione standing in instead. So we'll see how Nevinger does in his return to the mat. 149, 15th ranked Chris Villalonger, recently back from injury. Did wrestle last week against Brown. Harvard wrestled really, really well against both opponents. In fact, I believe a pin and a tech fall for Chris Villalonger against pretty decent opposition. Against Penn, he'll take on Andrew Lindsay, a junior who is 17-8 so far this year. Oregon State, Scott Sakaguchi, ranked 7th in the country. That might be an uphill climb for Villalonger, but the way he's wrestling, Jeremy, no reason he can't beat both of those guys.
Yeah, Chris is really coming along. I think last time I was on the show, I talked about his confidence and how he just needs to get that in order because he's really good. And I think coming off this weekend is going to really help him. He's lost to Sakaguchi in the past, but we're hoping to turn that around for this weekend.
At 157, Cornell's Jesse Shannon has snuck into those NCAA rankings toward the bottom. He's ranked 30th right now. Those polls just released earlier this week. He's a junior. He's 7-2 this year. He's been fighting through some injury issues. He'll take on Troy Hernandez of Penn, a senior who's 500, 7-7 on the year. And for Oregon State, it'll be number 8, R.J. Pena, who is 23-3, having a great junior season for the Beavers. Is that a guy Shannon can get to, Chris?
Jesse's a really, really strong wrestler. He's been hampered with injuries his whole career, and he's starting to string some weeks together where he's not injured. So every week, every day in practice, adage in wrestling is the more you're on the mat, the better you get. You're seeing a stronger Jesse Shannon. It's a tough slate for him to go with Pena, but you know, he should be in that match. Should be very exciting.
Very interesting to see what Jesse Shannon can do at 165. Well, it's always interesting, but it's interesting for different reasons. Number one, Kyle Dake has pinned his way through the Ivy League so far. He's wrestled for a total of 3 minutes and 5 seconds in 3 Ivy League duels. I, for one, am curious to see if he can make it through the entire Ivy League season without having wrestled an entire match, which would be ridiculous. But well on his way to Ivy League Wrestler of the Year if he keeps it up. He'll take on Casey Kent of Penn, who has himself just snuck into the rankings at number 33. He's a freshman, 16-9 on the year. Oregon State. It'll be either Alex Elder, a redshirt sophomore, or a redshirt freshman in Seth Thomas. Coach Bates, I mean, Kyle just gets better and better and better and better. Is there any reason he can't pin both of these guys?
No, especially with how good Kyle is on top. He's always looking for the pin in every match, so we're going to look for that streak to continue, hopefully.
And against these two opponents, Cornell, maybe you need a bonus points come 165.
Yeah, both matches, especially Oregon State, we're going to need those bonus points, so that'll be big.
We'll see how it comes down. 174, either Duke Pickett or Marshall Peppelman. Peppelman was with us at Brown and Harvard last week. We'll see if Duke Pickett might make his return to the lineup. Against Penn, that will be against either Ian Korb, a sophomore, or Harrison Cook, a senior. Against Oregon State, it'll be Austin Moorhead, a junior from California, 17-9 so far this year is Moorhead. So 2 matches that are both winnable, but not easy. Is it going to be Duke, or is it going to be Marshall, or again, game time decision?
I think that's a game time decision as well. You know, there's a couple weights where we're wanting somebody to step up and earn the spot, and they've kind of been going back and forth. That's one of the weight classes. So, you know, hopefully one of these guys will put himself ahead and take the spot for the rest of the year. So we'll see. 133,
174, 197, a few of those weights where there's a couple of guys. Is that a good thing, Coach?
I think the competition is a good thing. You know, it's hard to get complacent when you got another guy going in opens and right on your heels. You know, some guys struggle with the confidence of it, but I think overall it's a good thing when you have 2 good guys going, you know, competing for a weight class.
And Nick Aruggi at 133 took 4th at an open tournament last weekend while the rest of the team was out at Brown and Harvard. So good news for him, getting a little bit back into the thick of things. 184, another weight where Cornell expects to have a massive advantage against both opponents. 4th ranked Steve Bozak, one of the best there is, defending national champion. The senior's 9-2 this year, just coming back from injury. Still getting into the swing of things, not at 100% yet as far as his wrestling shape. Right? Physically, he probably is pretty close to 100%. But he's going to take on Kanan Bethea, 26th in the country from Penn. He's 17-6 this year for Oregon State. 19th ranked Ty Vincent, a senior who's 12-7 this year. Bozak, a pin against Harvard. Chris, he keeps looking better and better.
Well, yeah, he's in the same boat as Jesse. After missing that whole first semester, he's wrestling himself back into shape. And I don't think people understand how tough that actually is to do. To come off cold and to be expected to wrestle at the level of Steve Bozak, being a returning national champion. He's finally getting his lungs back, which is huge. And he's starting to transition better on top. He was forcing a lot of things at first, and we're seeing more transitions, which is a really good thing, and that's a good sign for Steve Bozak.
At 197 for Cornell, a toss-up could be Billy George, could be Jace Bennett. Bennett not wrestling great right now. Got pinned at Brown by a kid who he had pinned earlier in the year. You never want to see that. Consistency has been an issue for Bennett, so possible that Billy George will find his way back into the lineup. One of them is taking on number 9, Micah Burak, the senior for Penn. Has been Cam Simaz's whipping boy for years, and finally a chance for him to take over the EIWA with Cam Simaz having graduated a national champion. Burak for Penn, and then Meeks, another tough opponent against Oregon State for either Bennett or George. Meeks is 7th in the country, 22-5 on the season for the sophomore. Can either Bennett or Billy George, Chris, hang with Burak or Meeks?
I think that they both can hang with them. Consistency is the key. If Bennett's in the lineup, he can't go to his back. Giving up bonus points in any of these matches could be fatal for the Big Red. So that can't happen. If it's Billy George, we know that he's really solid defensively. I think both matches will be extremely close if Billy's in those matches. So either or, they need to have a consistent match to stay aggressive the whole time to have Big Red have a chance to win either of those matchups.
Yeah, so 197 is going to be a tough weight for Cornell this weekend. Heavyweight, also going to be tough. Stryker Lane got injured last week at Harvard. A really gutsy effort by Stryker. He was up 2-0 very late in the match, 10 seconds left. Ride time at 1:09, so 1 second away from being secured. Stryker hurt his knee, went down. His opponent got the takedown, got credit for the takedown, even though I think Stryker was hurt before the takedown was even really completed. And all of a sudden you've got a 2-2 score, and if his opponent rides him out, you're looking at overtime and an injured striker lane. If he medical defaults, Harvard wins the duel. So that certainly wasn't an option for him. Very gutsy effort to pop up to one leg right off the restart, reverse his opponent, got on his back too. If he had 3 more seconds, I think he probably would have pinned that Harvard kid. So all the credit in the world to striker lane. If he can continue for the Big Red and put up those kind of efforts, he could go really, really far for Cornell. But we'll see this week, fresh off that injury, will Jacob Aiken-Phillips make an appearance? Maybe. One of them will take on 30th ranked Kyle Cowan or Steven Graziano, both juniors for Penn. And then number 4, Chad Hankey of Oregon State, one of the best there is at heavyweight. He's 24-3 this year, the senior from Oregon. So it's going to be tough either way, Chris. Who do you think? Do you think Striker? Do you think Jap? And do you think either one of them can beat Hankey?
I think it's a game-time decision. I think if Striker is healthy, he's going to go. Rehab's gone well this week, but it could be Jap too. I mean, it really will depend on how Striker feels. And it's the same thing. You can't give up bonus points in these matches. I would say, especially in the Oregon State match, it's going to be extremely close. So staying in that match, if he's hurt, he's going to have to finish that whole 7 minutes to keep the Big Red in, for a chance to win the match.
And I don't think Striker or Jap has faced Meeks before, but they've both faced the Penn wrestlers. Interestingly enough, Striker has only faced Cowan. Striker pinned Cowan in 2010 at the Binghamton Open, a long time ago, and then lost to him 2-0 that year in the duel against Penn. Jap has only faced Graziano and lost to him 5-2 in Millersville just last weekend. So interesting to see what happens there at heavyweight. Overall, Chris, your impressions on how these 2 duels should go? First, I'll tell you that I think Cornell will beat Penn pretty handily. They haven't lost an Ivy League duel in a decade, so why start now? Oregon State's another story, though. I'm looking at 5-5, maybe even 6-4 Oregon State as far as matches go.
Yeah, I had the match, when we were doing it earlier, 19-15, Cornell coming up on top, winning on bonus points, five matches apiece in the duel, but 19-15 Cornell.
You got to like Kyle Dake's chances to get bonus points as well as Sean Garrett against Oregon State. So that could be the turning point there. Obviously, Coach Davis, we won't ask you for your prediction. We kind of know what you think is going to happen. But Cornell Penn, you think it's a little more lopsided?
A little more lopsided. I think Cornell's matches that normally they expect to win, the Quakers, they're not going to win this match. So it's a really tough matchup for the Quakers. I see Cornell winning handily 7-3 in bouts in that match.
Yeah, for Penn, they're ranked guys. Mark Rappo up against a higher ranked guy, Sean Garrett. 141 CJ Cobb up against a higher ranked guy in Nevinger. And Micah Burak, maybe the only guy there that really has a distinct advantage for Penn coming into the duel. Well, that's it for your Big Red Zone preview this week, brought to you by Advantage Sport and Fitness and D-Squared Construction, as well as Defense Soap. Defend what you have built. We'll be back with you again next week when Cornell continues back on the road, Hofstra and Columbia. But hopefully you'll tune in this week as well. Cornell takes on Penn, 2 o'clock Saturday. Oregon State, 2 o'clock Sunday. The Oregon State match in Newman Arena. The Penn duel on Saturday will be here at the Friedman Wrestling Center. We thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Big Red Zone Preview.